Hello, beautiful, and welcome to the Moms Talk Sex podcast with me, Mor Yelvington, your host. I'm so excited for this conversation today. I feel like it's going to be juicy and flowy and fun. I have the most amazing Amanda here with me. Hey, Amanda.
Hello. I agree. Juicy and amazing and fun. Let's do it.
Yes. So, how about we start with you introducing yourself and let us know a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I never know where to start that, so I'll just play with it today, see how it comes out.
Yeah.
I do always start with I'm a mom. I'm a mom of three. I have an adult daughter who lives 2,000 miles away from me, so that's been a lot of parenting journey. I have a almost 17-year-old and I have a 10-year-old. So I'm all over the place on the mom spectrum. Um, and that is like a primary identity for me. I am also married to my high school sweetheart, so 20 plus year relationship. I live in Massachusetts. I'm an East Coast person. And I am primarily a coach, although I don't know. I feel like what's the right word for what I do? I don't know. But we'll say that I am a life coach. I work mostly with people who've had abortions. And I come from a abortion supportive, like pro-abortion lens, but with the perspective that, especially for those of us that are moms, comes with a lot of feels, comes with a lot of complex emotions and experiences, and invites us to look at a lot of really hard stuff. So, although I am a coach for all kinds of things, that is sort of the core of my work.
I love that. And I feel like this is where we connect to talk about sex, right? Because so many women that come to work with me about, sexual trauma don't even think that having an abortion is sexual trauma. And yet we both probably know how much actual mental
Yeah,
stuff goes on when you go through something like that. So I'm
yeah.
curious, maybe you can share with us about your personal journey and how you got
Oh,
to this point. Yeah.
yeah. Sex and abortion has a lot of layers. For me, I had my abortion at 38 after I was like my three kids. So it'll be 7 years this coming March. Um, so my abortion story is that I was done having kids, and I was definitely that person who was like, I'm pro-choice, but I would never choose abortion.
Yeah.
Until I did. And so that really opened my eyes, and it showed me a big hole that we were missing when we were talking about parenting and mothering and women's health and, well, any reproductive health. Um, and I think that I got called to this work because it needed to be done, and I was not gonna let it slide by without doing some deep dive work. So it's really been a 7 year journey of like where my abortion led me and how that could help other people heal their stories. And I have clients who had abortions decades ago when they were teenagers. I have clients making abortion decisions. Um, Abortion leaves no one behind. Like 1 in 4 people will have an abortion by the time they're in their 40s, and over 60% of them are moms. Like they're already moms. They get what it means to be pregnant, the responsibility of that, the hardship of that, the intensity of that. So, um, it's a huge topic. It's not talked about a lot. I landed here because of my own emotional journey and just recognizing that everything I'd heard about abortion was not really represented in what I was feeling after my own abortion. Like, and I thought, well, I cannot be the only one who's feeling this way. And turns out I'm not. So I
Yeah. So
don't know if
maybe,
that answered your question.
yeah, it does. And also, I'm curious,
Yeah.
maybe you can share a little bit more light about that. Like, what do you feel? What do you go through? Because I think if there's
Yeah.
moms out there listening and they're in, contemplating or have been there, they probably would love to
Yeah,
know
I
that
think
this
some of
is
your listeners, some of your community may have had abortions that they never thought twice about. And that's a fantastic thing. Like, abortion can just be a part of our healthcare. But for many of us, it's much more complex than that. There's a lot of grief, right? Like for me, I was very sad that I knew the right choice was to say no to a pregnancy, not because it wasn't healthy, not because I was in an abusive relationship, not because I was like in a dangerous situation, simply because my soul was like mothering complete, like we're not doing a human child again. So there was a lot of grief, there was a lot of sadness, there was a lot of like having to come to terms with life and death and love and loss. um I had to learn how to feel multiple things at one time, like this is the right thing for us, and I don't know what our swearing levels are here.
whatever.
um okay, well, we'll just be gentle. It really sucks, right? Like it's really hard, and because it's hard doesn't mean I shouldn't do it. So how do I feel both those things at the same time? So I had shame. Like I had, for me, an IUD fell out. I didn't know it fell out. So I didn't have shame necessarily about choosing abortion, which a lot of my clients do. I had shame about like not knowing I was pregnant, not doing a good job protecting myself, um, not using multiple levels of birth control. Like you can come up with a million reasons that you're a bad person for what happened to you. And so there was shame. It wasn't like, you know, facing some of the struggle. I'm not like, I don't come from a Christian background, so I didn't have like guilt or in that way, but I had mothering guilt. Why would I say yes to these three other beautiful children and not this one? Like, what if it was meant for me? What if it happened for a reason? Is my desire not to be pregnant good enough? So abortion is this really interesting topic that asks us to look at so many pieces of our life, our relationships, our parenting, our the way we treat ourselves, like our adaptability. Like it's super rich and vulnerable and intense, but then that makes it like very powerful and like empowering and beautiful in some ways, which is like weird words. People are like, how can you use beautiful and abortion in the same sentence, right? But I
Yeah.
made my choice from a place of love, and that is very beautiful. um and then I have clients who did not. They made their choice from fear, but then they learned how to love themselves, and that is very beautiful. So it's like, does it happens in all different places for different people, but it's a really rich opportunity.
Yeah, and how do you navigate that, especially in a relationship? Like how did your husband respond to that? How did he accept all that? How
Yeah.
did it affect your marriage?
I've told this story many times in different layers of my content out there in the world, but we had an interesting thing where we both knew we were done having kids. So when we thought I might be pregnant, we both kind of knew like, uh-oh, we're gonna have to choose abortion. And that was kind of like where we were at. We agreed on that neither of us wanted more kids. But then I took a pregnancy test and it was negative. And we both looked at each other and we were like, over the course of the next 12 hours, we both sort of confessed to each other, like, whew, I don't know if I could have followed through with an abortion. Like, that was scary.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I don't think this is over. I still feel pregnant. And so we had this moment where we like knew that what was right for us was to choose abortion, but we were both too scared to do it.
Yeah.
And we had this like brief window where we thought like, whew, dodged a bullet. And then it turned out that we actually did have to face that decision, but we were on the same page. Like it was hard for both of us, but neither of us wanted to go back to babies. Neither of us wanted sleepless nights. Neither of us wanted like more financial hardship. Neither of us wanted like just that the struggle of little kids again. Um, there was resentment for me. There was like, why do I have to choose? this isn't fair. Like, you know, I was so grateful that he had the opinion that it's your choice, but also like, that's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure.
Right. Right.
So there was all the feels, and I decided that I was gonna learn from it, right? I just decided that whatever we decided and however it turned out, I was gonna have my own back. I was gonna keep taking care of us. And our relationship is a lot stronger. He's an awesome person, but I think that's because of the way I decided to look at it. Um, I don't think he gets a lot of credit in our relationship being stronger because of it. Like, of course, he's a good guy and that's credit worthy, but like, I worked hard for our relationship to be better after this. Um, and it is. It's made us a lot tighter and stronger.
That's amazing. That's amazing that you can find the vulnerability in that. And did it affect your sex life at all?
Oh man, sex was so hard after. I sobbed the first time, just like sobbed. I was afraid of getting pregnant again. I was like, I can handle the shame of one abortion, but not two. Now I'm like, I would have seven if I needed to. I'm past that. But it was so scary. It's so scary because for me, I felt like getting pregnant in the first place was a loss of control. Like I didn't want that to happen and it did. And so I don't want to not be in control again. I don't want to have to face that hard decision again. So sex was really scary for many, many months. If not probably a full year, it was emotional in some sense. I needed that closeness more than anything, and it also scared me more than anything, right? It's like all I wanted was the connection and the love and the like pleasure and the release and I wanted everything it had to offer me, but like that was terrifying. So it definitely affected and still like like if I think about the complexity of it, um I can look back now and be like, it makes me really appreciate like how much great sex we've had without all that consequence.
Right. I know,
Like
like
I
think of
just
the
was taking
women
that
that
for granted.
exactly.
So
I
there's
think
like lots of different layers.
yeah, like think about the women that, went through abortions in their teens, like how much are they carrying on them in their relationship without even knowing it, right? Because so many times if we don't have somebody to talk to, if we don't have a way to process, we just kind of shove it down. And then a lot of times it probably shows up in those intimate relationships and those intimate moments where we want to be vulnerable, but we don't know how. We don't know how to get to that point.
Yeah.
So how did you like what kind of support did you get to walk you through all this? Because it seems like it's a very emotional, traumatic experience. It's not something that
Yeah.
comes, like you said, like easy. And like it seems like you need support. And I've never heard of anybody really supporting women in that way.
Well, that was what I learned was that there wasn't a lot of resources. Um, and that was really hard. I wanted something that I could not find. And I never did find it. And that was why I created it. I was like, I can't be the only one who wants this. I want someone to um talk about this in a way that I'm feeling it. And I still feel like it's gotten a little better. Maybe I'm just more exposed, but I felt like I can't, there's these two binaries. One is like abortion is murder, and one is abortion is healthcare. And I didn't really feel like either was true for me. Like, yes, I believe it's healthcare. And yes, I believe I did say no to a baby. Like, technically, I ended a life. Like, I do believe both those things in some way. But what I really felt was all this space in the middle. Like,
Yeah.
it's a lot messier than those binaries. So for me, it was the tool. The reason I'm so passionate about coaching is that it was the tools of coaching that helped me heal. It was like being curious about what I was feeling, being curious about what I was thinking, being curious about where I wanted to go and how I could get there. To start, it was a lot of thought work, a lot of understanding, like, is that a thought I'm choosing intentionally? Is that a belief system I want to have? And realizing that I could pick any belief that I wanted. And
Yeah.
that if, and that was so freeing to be like, wait, I don't have to believe this thing that society says about me or about my choice or about, it's like, I could choose to believe something else. So that, for me, honestly, that was what changed it. Since then, I've learned a ton of new book coaching tools that I use with my clients. But they weren't necessarily the ones that helped me right up front. Right up front, it was straight up like thought work, like mindset.
Yeah.
It got me through it.
And so as a coach in this industry, I'm sure you get a lot of backlash, or have you found it to be pretty
That was the
open?
hardest part at first, was like, it's pretty bold and brave to talk about abortion.
Yeah.
It was scary. I was scared for my family. I was scared about there, but I've been through a lot of layers of it. Like, there are full-on pro-life articles written about me that are all lies. And so I just have to let it go. Like, I have to let people do what they need to do. I have to keep revisiting and coming back to my own truth and like, what does love look like for me, to myself, to other people who I can help? Um, People say awful things, and you have to be really centered and strong in yourself to face those awful things and be okay. And so that's actually turns out to be a huge gift, right? It's like, people have called me so many names and they do sting, but then I'm like, wait a minute. Who am I? Do I like me? Do I like my choices? Do do I want to adjust my values? Do I want to change my beliefs? And so you just have to keep coming back to center, back to center, back to center. And that's why I think abortion work is really interesting, because we have to look at so many things that become useful in other parts of our life, right?
Yeah.
Like, it just asks, and the same with any work around sex, anything, literally. When you do the work on one thing, it
Yeah.
changes everything else.
That's so true.
So it's just worth it. It's like hard, but it's worth it.
Yeah. And it's very courageous, I think, because standing up there and being an advocate for these women that probably need a lot of support, I think it's very honorable, no matter what way you look at it. And wherever side of the spectrum you come, and at the end of the day, it is a woman's choice what she wants to do. And it comes with so much baggage when it comes in this reality, right?
Yeah, and this election years, I think I've been through one election cycle, like a presidential election cycle in this business. So I remember how intense it was that year. And now I get to face that 4 years later and help more people through it, because they're all being triggered by the news. They're being triggered by people's opinions. They're wanting to defend themselves. They're wanting to hide in a hole. And so, um, we live in a country here in the United States that has just made this such a ridiculous issue, that it brings up a lot of feelings for people. So
Yeah.
that's hard.
I feel like where we are right now in general is very polarized almost on every single thing. It's
Everything.
just like treading water
Yeah.
and hoping you don't stumble on something that's going
Yeah.
to rock the boat too much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we have a voice and we need to use it and we need to stand behind what we believe. And if people can't handle it, then they're welcome to their own opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if there's women out there that are looking for this kind of support and need your help, where can they find you?
I am Amanda Starr, like STAR is my actual middle name.
Oh, I love
And Star Kingsley everywhere, you know, like the little Instagrams and TikToks and all the places. But my podcast is where most people find what they are looking for and then start digging into the work. And that's called Speaking Light into Abortion. The other thing, I don't have one right next to me, is I have a book that's really healing for a lot of people. It's called What I Wish, and it's 100 love notes to help you survive, come alive, and thrive after abortion. So it's basically 100 poems that just help you like think about things a little bit differently. So that's a really good resource, and it's just available on Amazon and places.
I love that. Thank you. And thank you
Yeah,
so much for being here and taking the time
thank
to talk
you.
sex with me and bring some light to these not so light situations.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I really appreciate you for being here and doing this. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you. I appreciate you for having me.
Yeah, anytime. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope this was valuable for you. If it was, if you have any questions, any comments, please leave and I would love to respond. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye.